Hello, my name is Raphael Suleiman. I was born in Kakuma Refugee Camp, and that's northwestern part of Kenya. My parents fled war from South Sudan in the 1990s, and they sought refuge in Kenya. So grateful for the Kenyan government to be able to host refugees at that time, and they're still hosting refugees till date. That's a very good thing for them to do as a neighbor to South Sudan and also helping other countries or whose people are fleeing war. Refugee life is not an easy life. As a young child, I didn't think so, but in hindsight that I'm here, I feel like we were deprived of a lot of resources to be able to live a good life, and that is in a number of ways. I can start with food is rationed in a refugee camp, depending on the donations and available resources the United Nations have to be able to give out to refugees. As you know, the UN helps refugees worldwide from different countries, different places, and sometimes probably the funds might not be enough to help everyone fleeing war. So they will ration food according to how much they have. And for me personally, and to many refugees living in Kenya, or rather the Kakuma Refugee Camp was living, many people were surviving on one meal a day. And probably some families will miss meals some days, depending on the month or year, because the UN agency or the United Nations donations and resources vary every year. Right now, the rations in the Kakuma refugee camp are at, I think, 60% or 40% sometimes. So it has been different. That means they will not be able to provide food 100% to the family or to the refugee. So they will say they're able to provide only 60% of the food to you, and you'll have to look for the other 40%, which is not easy for a refugee because you're a foreigner in that country. And mostly, like Kenya also is most Kenyans even don't have jobs. So it's very hard for even a refugee to be able to work and fend for themselves in that country. So food is very scarce in the refugee camp. Secondly, I'll say about education. There are very few classrooms available for refugees in the refugee camp, and this is all because of the less resources the UN has to be able to provide quality education to the refugees. And the, you will find crowded classrooms with up to 200 students and very few teachers available to be able to teach these students. Mostly in the refugee camp in Kakuma refugee camp where I grew up, many people who had finished high school, after you finish high school, you're allowed to volunteer and help other students because there are few teachers available. So you'll find many refugees who have completed high school going back to the same high school or primary schools to help the students read, write, and teach them different subjects because there are very few teachers available. You'll also, I mean, however, how much the quality of education is not good in a refugee camp, the refugees who have come to the camp usually come from war-torn countries like from South Sudan, Somalia, Congo, Ethiopia, who where they come from also they didn't even have education, or even the language they were using to study in those countries is different from the language they find in Kenya. So it's very hard for them to be able to study in Kenya because there's a language barrier, and at the same time also maybe the level was not is too low. So before they start to know how to read and how to write in a refugee camp, it's not really easy for them to be able to grasp the education they're getting, more so, or even when there's less teachers and few classrooms available to them. Thirdly, also is healthcare. Healthcare, there's a very low standard of healthcare in the camp. Also due to the resources the UN can get, and few resources meaning few doctors, and they will probably just focus on the most prone diseases like malaria and typhoid, and all the other diseases is gonna be very hard for them to treat because they don't have the resources to treat. Probably they don't have the drugs to be able to give it to you, or probably even you need a surgery, and they don't have the ability to do a surgery to you. Sometimes they transport people to better hospitals outside the camp, but then if there are no resources available to do that, then that is not possible. So it's not easy for people who are suffering from other diseases other than like malaria or typhoid to be treated because it's very hard. There are no resources available for that treatment. Thank you. Thirdly, I'll talk about shelter. Shelter is a very important part of a human being, to be able to have a roof over your head and sleep in a comfortable place. But then in refugee camp, usually the first time you get there is they give you a tent. Or let's say the first time you get there, there's a reception center where people sleep in large rooms, and they'll just spread they'll spread a bed sheet. The Sometimes there are few mattresses available, but not everyone will get a mattress to sleep on. Or probably one family will be given one mattress to sleep on, but then you have like five family members on your family. So some people have to sleep on the floor with just a bed sheet available to them. And after in the reception center is where you get registered as a refugee, given some few items to help you stay in the refugee camp, maybe some cooking utensils, and then you'll be taken to where other people stay in the camp, and they'll provide you the tent first. You'll stay in the tent, and then they'll let you know to make bricks for yourself so that you can have a house, probably a one-room house that you can stay in. And you're a refugee, it's not really easy for you to make enough bricks to make one, a house for yourself. So sometimes it will take time for you to make those bricks and then usually they'll provide you with the iron sheets once you make enough bricks, and you can construct yourself your own room. It's usually four-side room, four walls, and then once you make those four walls using the bricks you've made, is when they'll send people with iron sheets, and they'll just put iron sheets above the room you've made, and that's where you stay with your family members. If you want to make Usually if you want to make another house, you'll have to make it yourself. So this is the kind of life my siblings are living right now in the refugee camp, of which I was I was fortunate enough to be able to get out of the refugee camp. I came through a program called WUSC Hires, whereby they were looking for jobs. They were looking for people who can come and work in the hospitality industry in Kelowna, and that's how I came to Kelowna. But since I came here, I knew I will not be able to be happy if my siblings are still going through the same life I was going through. That's why I came to ask the Diocese of Kootenay to be able to help me sponsor my siblings from the refugee camp, and they were so happy to help me through the process and to apply for my siblings to be able to come to Kelowna. I'm so grateful to the Diocese of Kootenay for accepting that. Thank you so much.